Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is a brand new episode of Liam Picks Fights presents the Contender Series. And today on the show, I would normally be joined by my guy Gordo. I'd normally be recording live from the great state of New York, but instead, guys, I'm on the road today. It's a road game for your boy. I am out on a vacation in New Jersey. So I actually have access to Contender Series lines, which is a vast improvement over some of the weeks prior. I'm excited about that fact. My guy Gordo is in the middle of his exam. So we got to understand this is a man pursuing his education. He's doing everything right. So all we can say is shout out to Gordo. Best of luck on all your tests. And we appreciate you showing love. I see the Plays and Fades YouTube channel in here. Let's go, boys. Keep killing it. Looking forward to the show. See you boys next week. So shout out to Gordo. Make sure that you guys show love and support on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. We are there on alternate weeks. So when we're not here on my channel talking Dana White Contender Series, you know that we're over there on Gordo's channel, Plays and Fades Sports, talking about the Contender Series. Now, what I have to tell you guys is we have a great guest for today. Don't worry, I'm not just doing this solo stream. We are going to hear from the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, Big Bird himself. By popular demand, everybody wants to hear his opinions on these Contender Series fights. My man's been doing great things on the UFC front as well as on the Contender Series front. So we're excited to hear from Pierce, but my man's getting ready. My man's had a big day. And so ultimately, I wanted to get the show started on time as best we could today. So we're going to start rumbling. The thing I always do with you guys is level with you where I'm at in my research process, right? I do a lot of research on these fights. So sometimes it's going to take me more time than average, right? When you look at the fights that we have on the card today, we have some guys that are fighting that have 15 fights, like Adam Bramhald. And I'd just be lying if I said I could take in all of his fights before we get on the air today, especially when I'm trying to cap all these other fighters. Now, as far as who we do have, I looked into Jack Duffy, every fight that I could find available on the internet. I looked into Nick Piccininni. I taped every fight of his professional career. I was in the building when he won a couple of his state titles. So I'm very familiar with his game. I've been watching him through college wrestling as well. So I would say those are the two guys I'm most familiar with on the card. As for the other guys that I say I'm really familiar with, Bogdan, Grad, I had taped him coming into the fights last year. He was on the Contender Series, if you guys remember that. And he's back this year. I taped his fights that he's had in the interim, but also Michael Aswell. I taped a bunch of his fights. They're available on Fight Pass because they're in Fury FC. So those are the kind of things that make it easy for me to just go sequentially in order, start watching a lot of these fights. But without further ado, guys, let's bring him in. The man himself is in the building. I see him populating backstage. My brother from another, Pierce, how are you? Always a new background.
Hey, bro. I'm doing good besides getting absolutely rinsed
I
last
can't
week,
hear you for
but
whatever reason, brother. I think it's
my
on my
bad.
end. Hold on, let me fix.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me
Yo,
now,
we
Miss
got
William?
amateur hour over here. It was all my fault. Yes, please continue.
All right, you're making me trip for a second. All right, no, yeah, I just got rinsed last week. I think it's pretty impressive to when you lose every single bet, but I had a 9/11 moment last year in week 2 of the Contender Series, so I guess it's habitual that week 2 is going to be the worst week. But yeah, man, excited to chop up some fights. And I don't know if you can tell who this is in my background, but this is aura personified, my man.
Is that my guy Bogdan in the background, brother?
My man Bogdan, bro. He used to be rocking the man bun back in the day, and then his girlfriend told him to chill out because he'd be stealing all the ladies, bro. But no, I don't even have a bet on him, but I just thought this was a dope picture. But yeah, we'll get into it, bro. I'm not overly excited about these fights. Very low level, but there's no UFC this week, so we gotta force some action somewhere.
Yeah, well, it's about the first time I'm coming on my show and I'm not drinking a coffee today, guys. I'll level with you. We're drinking a little bit of adult beverages today. I'm on vacation. Can't be expected to drink a coffee at 12:07 a.m. at this hour. But what we will be doing is we'll be breaking down these fights, trying to make the best of it. The fight that I would say I'm the least familiar with, Pierce, is the Tulio and Mattheui Duclos fight. That's just the one that I kind of have like worked around. I've watched everybody else on the card except those two guys. And it's not anything personal against them. It's just been my order of preference. Like, yeah, I'm interested in this. I'm interested in this. That was the one where time to record the show, and I haven't gotten to it yet. So that's the one that I'd say I have to do a lot more research before I have a firm opinion. But I'm seeing a guy from Shootbox, Diego Lima. So that seems like an interesting prospect, a guy who could come in with some promise against a French fighter. Interesting note there. But let's start off with the first one, my man. This is the most interesting fight on the card for me. I'm kind of surprised by the bout order. When you look at this, you got a Jack Duffy who has had one of these weird careers, right? A lot of times you see guys come into MMA and maybe they have something else going on in life and they start trying to pursue that, doesn't work out, and they end up going back and falling back in love with MMA or missing the game, so they come back into it. This guy has had 2 breaks of 3 years in his career. So he's had multiple like extended layoffs from competing. But Jack Duffy is a guy that trains with Team Alpha Male. He's been doing jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts for like 19 years. So he's basically had a lot of experience in the game. And when you're thinking about like, okay, could that present some problems for a Piccininni who maybe hasn't had as much MMA experience, but he's got a ton of competitive experience, a lot of wrestling experience. When I went back and watched Piccininni's tape, I was impressed. Obviously, I come in with a default setting. I'm impressed by this guy, but there's definitely some, holes in his game, right? Some room for improvement. Let's say his striking defense, big flaw, right? Like he's a tough guy. I would say he's a very gritty competitor. Normally, he doesn't let the fact that he got hit hard deter him from going after a takedown or, getting back into the guy's face, throwing back, trying to take him down. But he's definitely been, dropped to a knee, dropped to a hand a couple of times in these fights. And I do, have some worries about where his striking is at, right? He does a lot of wrestling from far away and he makes it work, right? He's able to dive in on legs from very far out. He's able to close a lot of distance. He's able to take people down from, extended range. But that's the kind of thing that against higher level opponents, when guys start to sprawl out on you a little bit more, or when they can start to punish that with knees, uppercuts, those kind of shots as you're coming in, that could be a little bit more dangerous. So for me, the thing that is bullish for Piccininni coming into this fight is Duffy likes to do a lot of wrestling. He likes to do a lot of grappling. He likes to try and take guys into those positions. And frankly, I just think he's a little too lanky and a little bit too, gangly. He's probably going to get thrown around by Piccininni in those positions in the early going, if he tries to initiate them or if Pitch does. But I do think that the things that I saw on tape is Pitch did put himself in a couple of submissions. He knew his way out, right? He was very calm and patient in those spots. He's very muscular. So when you just look at like a big flyweight like this, it's very hard to kind of wrap arms around him, to get a hold of this guy. And I do think it was probably a serious cut for him on short notice, I would have to assume. But overall, I think Piccininni does, project as the better long-term prospect. But the guy who has a little bit more MMA experience is the significant underdog here. I'm curious how you feel about this one, Pierce, because I don't want to let my New York biases cloud my judgment. We obviously have one of the best New York wrestlers, of my era to be representing at this level. However, 6-0 on short notice, there's some things working against him. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, so as you can tell, Jack Duffy, part of the reason why he was gone for a long time, I heard he was on a 4-year bender. I mean, go figure. But yeah, yeah, this Nick Picciani guy, he's a 3-time All-American at Oklahoma State, and we know the type of wrestlers they produce at that school. And I mean, I think Nick is very green. He's filling in on short notice, actually. The dude he was supposed to fight was another shoot box guy, Jose Ochoa, who actually got called up to the UFC. He's fighting Loner Kavanaugh in China in a couple months. So those of y'all that know Loner, man, he's got quite the fight on his hands in a couple months. It's gonna be a banger. But Nick's coming in on short notice, but I don't think that's going to play too much of a factor here, mainly because when you watch him fight, he's got a great pace. I mean, you can tell he's been wrestling his whole life because these wrestlers have insane cardio. And I mean, Jack's got good back takes. That's probably the most redeeming quality of his game is his BJJ. And I mean, he could sneak the back on Nick maybe late if he gets tired, but I mean, I don't think there's much to say here. I think Nick's going to hit takedowns and Jack's going to be looking to play BJJ. I mean, even on the feet, it's not like Duffy has the striking advantage. I think it's actually Nick, to be honest. But I was looking at an angle to play this fight. I saw Picciani. I can't even say his name. I'm gonna say Nick. Nick KO was like 5-1. I haven't played it, but I don't think that's a bad angle on the fight just because Duffy's a grappler. It might be harder to sub, and Nick's got good ground and pound. I think I'm surprised he didn't have any KOs on his record. So I could maybe see a ground and pound late second round finish for Nick here. But yeah, hard not to side with the wrestler.
It's ironic. He's so in love with the submissions, bro. That's the reason why he hasn't been getting any KOs. He's actually hurt a couple guys in the feet too. And he's just like, so willing to like throw volume ground and pound, I would call it, like just the kind of ground and pound that's aggravating somebody, like making them turn away, give up a bad position. And then he's very quick. He has a strong grip on his chokes. That's the reason why he's finishing a lot of these people as well. There's a lot of guys that could like, apply some kind of choking mechanics, but they give the guys so much time to, peel hands and, they're tired themselves. So they start making, self-advantageous decisions. They're like, fuck this. I don't need to squeeze this shit no more. But he's got a capable squeeze. He's willing to do it multiple times a fight. And I think that that's also a difference maker. I personally play a lot of the same game that he does in terms of like the top position, where you're just letting somebody choose. Like, you want to be underneath in the mount or you want to be underneath in the back. Like, and you start to isolate the head and the arm together. It makes it very difficult for them to find reprieve somewhere else, right? If they rotate out, they're in a head and arm choke. And if they don't, you're extending them and trying to flatten them out from the backpack. So I think the thing that you see from a lot of jiu-jitsu guys that I hate in MMA is that they're going like looking up towards the ceiling, right? Both guys looking up towards the ceiling. That puts more pressure on you. Even though you're the guy on the back, like you're the one wearing all the weight of the two people. Whereas if I can get on top of somebody and belly my hips down, now they're wearing my weight and I'm on the back. It's like the same principle, just an even better way to apply it. And I think that's the difference between the wrestlers and the grapplers. Last thing I wanted to mention here, because I was taping all their fights, I thought the Devin Jackson win was a good win, obviously, for Jack Duffy. I thought that was probably the best win on his resume. But again, that was him out wrestling a blue belt, right? That was him out wrestling and out grappling a guy
Out
that's a
wrestling a
couple steps
flyweight.
behind him. Yep. And now you're looking at a guy, when he
Oh
fought.
wait, I'm sorry. Jack's a flyweight. That was I'm sorry. He doesn't come off as a flyweight, but Jackson was on like short notice for that fight. I remember I bet Duffy there, but yeah, I don't
For
know.
sure.
Devin
And he only
Jackson's
had
kind
4
of living
professional
in the
fights.
Devin Jackson's still living in the past on that Josh Van win. That's why everybody thinks he's good. But yeah, I think we all touched on most of the points here. Nick is good, man. Just maybe a little green. It might be too soon for him. I could see him maybe dropping fights once he gets to the UFC.
The thing for me was just that the Narek Avignon fight. Did you watch that one with Jack?
Yeah,
He
that
got
was like
dropped
the one he
he got
returned
dropped
off
like
his long
5
layoff.
times in a row, bro.
Hmm.
And like, yeah, I know he was out for a while, but just like the striking defense was legitimately non-existent. So while I was criticizing Nick about how things might go against like UFC level guys, I acknowledge that this guy has some skills, but like definitely a lot of glaring flaws as well. And the kind of things that you see, like the layoff was evident there. But even in the fight against Devin Jackson, he's still getting hit clean a couple times. And that's against a guy that I don't think has the same kind of athletic upside. So for me, Piccininni's the play here. I agree with you, Pierce. You hit the point I was going to make on the KO. But I also think that, the ITD is interesting here because he's known as like a submission guy, his opponent, but I just think that ultimately whoever dominates the takedowns here is going to win. I would not be the only other thing I'll mention. I would not be surprised if Nick gets taken down once in this fight. He sometimes is a little bit over eager with his hands. He will throw an overhand right like too hard and overcommit to it and show his back. So that's where he's got to be wise in this fight. If I was his coach, I'd be like, hey, listen, man, fuck the overhand right. We're not throwing that tonight. We're throwing left hooks, we're throwing right straights, but we're not getting over our toes. Because if you get over your toes, you can show your back to this guy. So one thing you don't want to do. But I think that Pitch should have it covered otherwise. Next up, guys, let's talk about this fight that's going down in the bantamweight division. We've got Malcolm Wellmaker taking on Adam Bramhald. And oh boy, I think that Malcolm Wellmaker looks like the more talented fighter to me when I'm watching the tape. I was seeing a lot of Adam Bramhald getting out physicaled. I was seeing a lot of him getting knocked around. The Konstantin Enev fight, I thought he got hurt several times. In a pretty short fight, ultimately against a 12-7 opponent. I think that there was a lot of red flags for me on that side. Wellmaker seems like a calm guy. He does make a handful of mistakes, I would say, in the grappling, gets a little bit over eager, but I think his athleticism can bail him out in a lot of bad positions. I watched the Wingate and the Sykes fights. He looked very clean and very technical in those spots. And then the Chase Boutwell fight, it looked like Chase was having some success early in terms of getting to his wrestling and his grappling, but the guy was able to go after him, to the body and then hurt him upstairs. He does seem to have a good ability to find kill shots to make people, get uncomfortable. And just looking at his record, 3 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. I would say the submissions were oftentimes set up with the hands, with the strikes. He's got a decorated amateur run as well. I was unable to find the Carlos Andres fight. If anybody has the footage on that, I'd be fascinated to watch that. It was his only loss, pro or amateur. So the guy's on a fantastic run. And it does seem to me like Wellmaker is probably the guy, that I lean towards getting the job done here. How do you feel about this one, Pierce?
It's a shame. I come on here with one bet and it's a line that's I can't even fucking nobody can tell. But yeah, I played Wellmaker pretty large to win about 2,000, I think. And I played him at like minus 150, minus 160. And my main read was that just like Adam's path is probably like a split decision where Wellmaker's it's pretty obvious that the UFC likes this guy. They're literally giving him, in my eyes, a tailor-made matchup for him to look good. Because historically, if you want to beat Wellmaker, you got to be a good grappler. And Adam Bramhald, he's a Muay Thai guy. And when I'm looking at the matchup that the UFC is making here, they're giving him someone that's probably not that physical, not that big of a one-punch power. I mean, Adam can't even properly handle some of these cans in cage steel. And then I'll let you guys know because I'm the British MMA expert over here. If you're fighting in cage steel your whole pro career, that is not a good sign. I'll tell you that. And it's actually kind of funny because Bromhold was supposed to fight. He turned it down because he wasn't healthy, but he got a short notice call to fight Nathaniel Wood on like 2 days notice, which I thought was interesting. It was like in 2022 after his second to last win, which is it's interesting. But I mean, I think Wellmaker has the most upside of the two. He's probably has all the grappling upside. If I'm being honest, we see Wellmaker. He gets in a lot of clinch exchanges in his fights, but I feel like against Bramhald, because we saw in his 2 losses, he got guillotine choked by Luke Shanks, no big deal. But getting mugged the way he did on the map by Scott Malone back in the day is like red flags, man. Scott Malone is not an amazing grappler at all, and you're just getting mauled on him and passing them out easily. I think Wellmaker, if he can get on top, because we saw in his 5-round fight, I forget who it was against. Like the name's not coming to the top of my head, but he had a 5-round fight against this Taylor Moore guy. And while it was Moore had maybe some takedowns, he had some moments in the grappling. Wellmaker was pushing the pace the whole fight. He was hurting him in almost every round, and it's like he has that grit. This kid seems like a workhorse, and he's the type of guy he's just going to keep his head down and just keep pushing the pace. And I think Bromhold is. I haven't seen him tested. I haven't seen him face that adversity. I mean, he did get rocked in that one fight against the Bulgarian, but I mean, if we're seeing him on bad positions in the mat and Wellmaker's on top, I don't know how he's going to react to that. That's why I did play a little bit of a flyer on the Wellmaker by submission, just because I see him go for these power guillotines. He's very aggressive on the mat, but he does rush positions on the mat. That is a bit of a concern, but I mean, he works up. So I don't think Bromhold has a grappling path here. But yeah, worst case, I lose a split decision here, man. I just cap Wellmaker like minus 250, minus 260, which is a bit of a shame that we're having this on a Monday because he's fucking minus 250 right now. But yeah, sorry if I was yapping a bit. It's my only bet, so I might as well make it worth everybody's time.
No, brother, please. There's no amount of yapping that is not welcome on this show. I'm a talker. That was my yearbook quote when I was in high school, dude. What can I say? I'm a talker, Conor McGregor. So that's the way I roll, brother. I'm always down for the conversation.
So
And
it's not much of a shock to your friends in high school that you're on a podcast weekly now.
I would have to say they would not be surprised, unlike Brendan Schaub. But in any case, man, when I'm looking, what's funny is like we have the same read for these props. Like off the read, I haven't looked at these prop lines until we get on the show, right? So I like peeked over at the Piccininni ones earlier. I will say because I was like doing the research on that fight in depth. I taped their whole careers basically. So then I looked at the props for that one, and that's why I knew the KO was like 5-1. This one, I'm like, let me go see what the sub price is. It's 4-1. Not a great price, admittedly. So
don't look at what it opened at, bro.
I know you destroyed it, I'm sure. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait and see if the domestics give me something. I'm in Jersey. There's a chance that it'll open on a FanDuel or something like this and be a playable number. But ultimately, I do just think that from what I saw, the guy's just a weenie physically. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful in any way. It's just a reality sometimes in these grappling situations. It wouldn't matter if he's going against another guy who's got the same build, but it's just like this guy seems like he's going against a more muscular, more physically developed guy who's also probably the more dangerous, better striker on the feet. So it's just, he's kind of got a pretty narrow path, I feel. And if this fight ends up on the ground, you said it, aggression is not great for the money line, right? Like that's why it's minus 250, not minus 400. The guy does make some mistakes. He's still a young enough fighter, hops over the top looking for the back. But when you bet the sub prop, yeah, we need attempts, brother. If we don't get attempts, we ain't getting it. So it's like, let's just do something. Let's go after it. And I do like that he's a guy who's constantly hunting the finish, from what I would say as well. So good stuff, my man. We're seeing this one the same way. We both like Wellmaker here. We both wouldn't be surprised to see him get it done inside the distance. Wouldn't be surprised if Bramhald was forced to submit in this contest. Now, Pierce, I'm going to kick this one over.
One more thing.
Please do.
I'll say 2 words to end this fight. Liam knows these words very well. When you look at this matchup from a surface level perspective, anthropomorphic advantages, my friends. We capitalize on them. And I'll let you guys fill in the lines, but you know what I'm saying.
Got to. We have to. Next up, my brother, it's Marco Tulio taking on Mattheui Duclos. And this is going down in the middleweight division. It is the first of a pair of middleweight fights, my brother. And the other fight, I'll give you a lot more thoughts. I'll give you guys a lot more analysis. This one, I'm going to kick it to my brother Pierce and see if he's got anything. I ain't know shit about these guys. I think I watched one Marco Tulio fight. I really just have very little to say here, my brother. I'll do a quick Tapo scan as I kick it to you.
All right. Well, so those of you who can't see, this is honestly like I did post my step back nene. It's actually a patented move, and where I'm from, nobody's allowed to do it but me. But this is a good representation of the Soldier Boy by Marco Tulio. And I'm gonna be honest with you here, folks. I come into this fight, I'm like, okay, Tulio, he was on the Contender Series last year. They want him to win. And I remember I bet Yusri Belguri his last Contender Series, so I tried to fade him. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe they gave him a bum. And then I taped this fight and I'm like, okay, I see why I tried to fade him. You know, I wasn't hitting the Soldier Boy after his last Contender Series. I was in the pits, man. I was crying. But I will say, he couldn't finish a guy that had Lyme disease the day of the fight. So take it as you wish, but Belguri was compromised and I will claim value till my grave. But looking at this matchup, I mean, we got Duclos, he's not as bad as I thought. I do remember his Bellator fight against Ubas. He kind of got memed on there. Very, very fluky finish, if you ask me. He dropped Ubas twice in the first round and then gets hit on like the side of the temple and his equilibrium went out. So that's just a weird fight. But when I'm looking at this fight from a cap-in perspective, it's like I know Tulio's got like a lot more of the hardware. He's probably more durable of the two, but I just don't like this guy, man. I think he's overrated as shit. And I'm looking at this price tag. It's like minus 400 on this fucking guy. And I asked myself, how does he cover minus 400? First round knockout, maybe. And then I'm like, but I see him. He grapples a lot in his fights, and his wrestling's fucking shit. He just goes for these trip takedowns, and he's literally struggling to take down jobbers on the Brazilian scene. So when I look at Duclos, man, I was expecting him to be a lot worse than he is. The kid's a sharp striker. His kicks are very nice. He's got good low kicks, good teeps up the middle, and he throws hard on the feet. So, and I see Tulio, who's literally like he throws down, but it's like defensively, this fucker is not. He's not keeping his hands up. He's kind of just swinging dicks out there. And I mean, Duclos maybe he's not as durable, but it's like if he can land big on Tulio, he could potentially hurt him. And I don't think the cardio advantage for Tulio is like cut and dry either. So who's to say Duclos doesn't have decision equity? I see the decision lines like plus 1200, which is a bit wide in a fight that I think is going to go over. I think there's going to be some clinching because in Tulio fights, you see a lot of the fights contest against the cage. And it's like, I mean, theoretically, Tulio's kind of shit off his back too. So, I mean, like there's too many holes is what I'm trying to say in Tulio's game for me to trust him at these odds. And I think I'm gonna have myself a dog play here on Duclos, and I'm gonna wait and see where the line goes. But skill for skill, I think this fight's pretty close.
Fair play, my man. I'm just now realizing that Tulio fought on Contender Series last year. So what I will do is I'll go back and listen to my audio breakdown. I didn't have that much on him in terms of like my written notes, but I bet against him. I was also on our boy Usry. So I think that this is a kind of spot where I definitely have to do my due diligence and see if there's a worthy dog shot on the other side, because I already thought fading Tulio was a good idea last time he was brought on this show. So for that reason alone, it's going to be a dog or pass for me when you're talking about a huge price tag like this, in a middleweight fight, nonetheless, where, the division is a meme in and of itself. So we'll figure it out as we go here. But
I'll
I
add
think that you're onto something. Tulio is a fade worthy candidate.
the connection maybe to why Duclos, because he's only like 6-2, why he's maybe being brought on here. He's best friends with Benoit Saint Denis, so there's the connection there with the UFC. So I don't know, man. Maybe they could use some more French talent. I don't think the matchmakers watching Tulio's last fight, they're like bringing this guy on and they're like, oh, we're gonna have another Brazilian superstar. And it's like, I don't know, man. I wouldn't be so confident that Tulio's gonna get the job done at -400. He probably could win, but like what is it, 80% now? I mean, that's getting a bit up there for someone that has as many flaws as he.
And even think of like a Torres Finney. They brought him back with a chance to re-sign him, right? But they're almost like harder on the guys that they bring back. Same thing with what's his name? They said like, yeah, like you won, but like we almost don't want to sign you. Like, I don't know. And then they brought him on. Was that Bruno Lopes, who kind of looked like shit and then got the finish? Like they basically kind of hold you to a standard if you've already been there once, and they want to see something better from you. So maybe Tulio can show up with something better, but he's going to have to cover the price. And I wouldn't trust him to do it, based on the fact I was willing to fade him with a pretty one-note kickboxer last time he fought. And this guy, the thing I don't like is just the inexperience of Duclos on paper. But they're the same age, and if he's had a bunch of experience in stand-up fights, then I won't be as nervous about it. In any case, though, my brother, this is one that I've taped in good depth, so I'm excited to talk about this one. We got Michael Aswell taking on Bogdan Grad. And because I started first on the first two, we'll have you start us off on this one, Pierce. But this one I have plenty to say. What do you think about this matchup, my brother? This one's going down in the 145-pound class. I should note, for anybody that's not aware, Bogdan fought last year at 155 against Tom Nolan, and he looked like he was way fucking smaller than him. So now he was like, you know what I'm not going to do? Come back at 155. Fuck all that. He looks like he's in the best shape of his life. With that color, Pierce, what do you think, my man?
Yeah, man. So I'm pretty familiar with Aswell. I've bet on him in Fury FC's last fight, and I mean, he has some intangibles to his game. This guy has like that "fuck you, I'm just gonna stay in your face" and really just pressure at his opponents. And one thing he's like kind of known for is that he kind of breaks guys. He's always pacing guys late, always winning the later rounds. But I thought, because I saw when I taped it, it was like +115, +110 as well, and I'm like, okay, as well as the dog, I'll probably play it here. But like I'm taping it, and I'm like, I'm not really feeling this play at all, just because as well. You give me that smile, Liam. You got like a hot take on Bogdan or something?
I definitely, I'm gonna have a fun take on this one. I haven't bet shit yet, but I'm curious. Like, I wanted to hear what your thoughts were before I bet
You're
this fight,
giving
one
me
way or the
that
other.
smirk. I don't know if the drink's hitting you right now or this picture of Bogdan's got you bricked up in the back, bro. But
Dude, I can tell you, it's not that picture of Bogdan. I already sent a picture of Bogdan to the Patreon where I just said, like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like, this guy is on insane
he's
roids
a
for this fight.
referee in his spare time as well, my friend. So my man
So he knows the
Bogdan,
rules.
he knows the rules and he knows the in and out of a cage, man. So Bogdan, I think he's dangerous here. He's a lot more dynamic than Michael Aswell. That's probably the one thing that's keeping me off of an Aswell play, is that like Bogdan has that he has that dynamism and he could literally end the fight at any instance. And the issue with Aswell is that like he takes one to give one. That's his style. He's like Homer Simpson's a bit disrespectful, but like that's probably the best way I can put it, is that he stays in your face. And I just don't have a hot take on this fight. I saw that the line flipped, and I'm not surprised. I think people kind of like the optics from Aswell, considering that this is probably going to be a minutes versus moments type of fight, where Aswell is probably going to be putting up the volume. But you got Bogdan, he's good at range. I just don't like how he's kind of low volume in his own right. So if Bogdan doesn't like hold his ground and like try to swing with Aswell, I think maybe he could get paced late. But like pre-fight, I'm looking at this fight and I'm like, Bogdan's probably going to be physical round one. He's probably going to be at range in round one. And maybe worst case, like you can bet Bogdan pre and maybe get a Aswell live bet. I mean, I've always thought of Aswell as an attritional guy, so I'm not going to lay like pick him pre fight when I think he probably drops the first round and paces this guy late if that's his path to victory. So dog or pass at these current odds. Maybe you can give Bogdan slight favorite. just because of the physicality and the dynamism. But yeah, not a passionate take for me. I like both these guys, so maybe an under. Honestly, this could be a violent fight.
One thing I didn't hear you say that I would bring up in this fight is grappling upside. And I think that Bogdan has it. When you look at this matchup, number one, Bogdan is coming down from 155. And what I notice is these guys like basically wait for him to commit to his strikes. He likes to load up, he wants to kill you, and then they're trying to take him down. And at 155, like he's underneath Tom Nolan. Guys, Tom Nolan is hitting him from so far away that this dude is like, what the fuck is even happening? Like, he couldn't understand. He was like trying to lock up the double underhooks, right? And he's holding him. And Tom Nolan is so long that he's like pushing away with one hand, elbowing him in the face, punching him. And he's like, dude, how is this happening? Like, I'm literally holding you chest to chest. I don't get this. Then, like, they create some small space. And Nolan from the full guard is throwing like over, like folded elbows, like big punches, things that most guys can't do. Like, he's just a weirdly big guy, right? And when you look at Tom Nolan, there's definitely flaws in his game, but like the things he does well is violence. And he came out and early got to violence on Bogdan and just made him look bad, right? And then afterwards, there was all the talking shit, and he's like yelling to Dana and all this stuff. Basically, made Bogdan look bad, right? And your options there are like, okay, new career, like this didn't work out. It was fun while it lasted, but he basically was like, okay, listen, I can beat these guys, but I can't do it at 155. Like these guys at the local regional scene, I could beat these guys up at 155. But the real big guys, like the real fucking pros, like this is not going to work for me. So now he's at 145, where I feel he can get on top of people if he decides to, right? He also is a guy that's shown he's kind of like scrambly from the bottom. He will look for that guillotine, and even if he doesn't get it as like the finishing mechanism, he'll use it to sweep. That was the one thing that I was really impressed by. I watched his 2 fights that he's had since the UFC fight, and he went out there and he's hitting like fucking butterfly sweeps from the guillotine to get on top to beat the shit out of somebody. That's what you need. It's like you can't hang out on your back. That drives me fucking nuts. And for Bogdan, it doesn't look like he's going to do that. It's like, I'm going to come out here. I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to try and get a hold of this guy and beat him up. And if I can't, like if this guy's trying to get a hold of me, I'm going to make him pay. I'm going to go for these guillotines. I'm going to flip him back over. I'm going to punch him right in his fucking face. And I just think that like when you look at Michael Aswell, I don't think he's a hard guy to punch in the face. I think he's a tough guy. I think he's a guy that's willing to go out there and trade, to your point. But like, I don't think of him as like, what a fucking rock solid defensive fighter. He's like a guy who's taking a lot of chances on the Texas regional scene. And to be frank, like this is my interpretation. There's better striking coaches, better striking analysts than I am by a lot, right? But this is what I'm watching. Right hand, right hand, right hand. It's literally, there's no variation to his offense at all. It's, I'm going to wait and line up this right hand. You throw at me, I'm going to throw this right hand. I'm going to throw this right hand. Brother, that's not only super predictable, it's there to be countered if you throw it all the time. So I'm just seeing this guy like constantly line himself up in the pocket to be clipped. And I'm seeing it happen, but not with great consequence, right? I think Bogdan's going to throw fucking hard as shit. And he's going to try and take this guy out. If you want to throw the same right hand, and I don't know that it's going to be like Tom Nolan where he drops him on the first punch. Same thing. My question would be, is it going to be like Tom Nolan had to drop him like fucking 8 times? Like he had to beat him up. He had to hit him a million times on the ground. Then he had to kill him again when they stood up. Bogdan is a tough guy. So I just feel like in this spot, it's like, as well, you said, he's a nutritional fighter. You're going to have to do a lot of damage, I think, to make Bogdan quit. I don't think he's going to try and get on top of him, which is where you can try and make Bogdan uncomfortable. I think there's a lot of spots where Bogdan just overperforms plus 105 or whatever in this spot because he has more experience. This guy's 23 years old. I always talk about like, I really appreciate when a guy is the younger fighter and he's 25 or older because then he's done with his physical maturation. He's a man, right? This guy, he's had a lot of fights, no doubt about it. He's been in the game, but is he learning the right habits? I think a lot of the time he's the faster guy. He's the more confident guy. He's out there knowing, hey, this thing should go my way. And I think he's going to like be out there and very early be like, oh, fuck, like I'm in a fight right now. And Bogdan already had that happen. And he's already been through that experience. I think he's ready for this one, man. So, yeah, my lean is towards Bogdan here and definitely considering a play as the line flips.
I didn't really bring up the grappling too much. I guess that is an interesting thought process. I guess my only issue with Bogdan is his takedown defense is honestly shit, but I don't
The
think that's
worst.
gonna be a problem here. But I mean the Yadier Devile fight, he's a good fighter in Fury, so we did see him take the back in round 1, so that could be potentially an avenue for Grad is if he can sneak the back. But I mean, overall, I don't think he doesn't really engage the grappling offensively too often. It's like a lot of him getting, like you said, the sweeps off his back. But I'm curious your thoughts because I thought this maybe the domestics will open a better line, but I thought it was interesting that Grad KO was like 3-1 considering like the stuff we said about how Aswell is kind of an attritional guy, take one to give one, and Grad can finish a lot of guys, man. You don't see many guys on the regional scene getting spinning heel kicks and flying knees like it's nothing.
Yeah, you know what's fascinating, man? It's like they're kind of showing their hand a little bit here, where they say, the KO is more likely on the Grad side, right? They're putting that at 300. They're putting, Aswell at 350. They're saying the submission is far more likely on the Grad side. I agree with them. Plus 550, they have it compared to plus 1300 for Aswell. Then you're saying, okay, what is it? Just Aswell decision. That would be like the way that you justify him being a favorite is like he has to win a decision here at a very high clip. Is Bogdan Grad going to settle to go to a fucking decision one way or the other? Like, he didn't strike me as that guy, dude. He's like the archetypal killer be killed kind of fighter. So I think he's probably going to either kill this guy in 9 minutes or die trying. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't see him as a guy who's going to be like, oh, you know what? Like, let's get into some, light jabbing exchanges and make this a sparring match. Not that guy. The opposite.
He's gonna throw the fuck down with him, bro. So I mean, shit. Like, I do agree. Aswell by decision is probably his most likely path to victory because I don't think he's gonna knock out Grad. But man, it's hard to not like. I mean, you saw the Ultim fight for Aswell, right? Like he got put on his ass.
And they're favoring the fight to end inside the distance. So like somebody, if you guys can go through and make that math work for me, I'd be curious because it doesn't make any sense legitimately. But
what's the finish only prop on him? Fuck, man. Minus 130.
Can find that. Wow.
Minus 130. I don't know, man.
Dude, the fight is like minus 145 to end inside the distance, and he's minus 130 if the fight ends inside the distance only, and he's plus 105.
I mean, I get it.
Line market. Okay.
I mean, Aswell knocked out Nate Richardson, which is a fucking hell of a knockout. I mean, Nate Richardson's a fucking vet, but yeah, minus 130 on the finish only. I feel like you got to give Grad most of the finish. But I mean, at the same time, if you're playing that minus money finish only, play the fucking KO too as well. So I don't know. Maybe play some money line and some ITD.
You know the thing, like if I was on that thought process, I would just take the fight not to go at minus 145 and be like fading Aswell decision and be like, yo, Bogdan, make sure that fucking one way or the other somebody comes back on a shield, brother. That's it. Just send him out there with a clear mission.
I get it.
It doesn't matter if it's the other guy or you. It's fine.
But I don't know. I just rather. I mean, you got the ITD at a pretty decent clip, but at a decent number. I meant to say. But yeah, fuck it. I'll stop bouncing around. We can go to the main event if you want, but I'm not looking forward to talking about this one.
Oh, you're not? Well, here's what I have to say about this main event, Pierce. We will move it to the main event. We got another middleweight fight, like we mentioned. This one is Andrey Pulyaev taking on Liam Anderson. And what a fucking name on this guy. What a fucking name from the great state of New York with a name like Liam, with a beard like that. How can I not fucking root for this man? That is, of course, going to happen against a Ruski, no less, against a fucking Ruski. Easy fan vote for me on the Liam Anderson side.
But this guy's Russian, bro. This guy's Russian.
From everything I'm hearing, and from all
I would have never guessed.
From all the YouTube descriptions, Pierce, have you not seen? From all the YouTube commentary, all I'm hearing is, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I watch it on 3 times speed. Y'all ever heard Russian in 3 times speed? It sounds like that's what it sounds.
Why is it always the same commentator? Not the commentator, the announcer. It's always the same guy, the Russian Bruce Buffer, bro. I don't even know his name, but if he's an icon out there in Russia. But what I meant by that is this ain't no mountain Russian now. This is a suburban Russian, man. They put him in like primary school out in St. Petersburg, bro. He not no mountain brother. But yeah, I guess I could just say I'll start it off if you don't mind. This is a bum fight, if I'm being honest. Like main event, like what are they doing with this main event? Like you could have put Aswell Grad as the main event. Amazing fight. Gonna be a banger. You could put Tulio.
You could have put New York legend Nick Piccininni in that main event, brother. He pinned Spencer Lee on national television.
There's some women's MMA fights that I would rather watch as this main event. But Liam Anderson, I mean, he's cool, man. He's got good BJJ. Like you can tell that was his base coming into MMA. But it's like the wrestling to get it there is like it's not the best, man. He's struggling to take down a lot of these guys on the New York regional scene, and I don't know. I think rightful favorite for sure because you look at the Pulyaev tape and it's like, oh my, his takedown defense is just not good. The dude's too soy, and go figure he trains with Andrey because they are dog shit off their back. But actually that's disrespectful. He's an OG. But what I'm trying to say is that yeah, I see why the line is where it is, but at the same time, like Liam Anderson is not someone that I'm laying minus 200 on in a UFC or Dana White Contender Series fight. He makes too many mistakes, man. This guy got dropped by J Man, and he's struggling to take down some of these like 500 regional guys, and it's like yeah, Liam's probably a bit more aggressive. He's probably gonna go for it more and has, like, all the submission upside, but Pulyaev at plus 180, it's a very clear dog or pass if you ask me. If he can keep it on the feet, he's the sharper striker of the 2, but yeah, I think it's so fucking binary, this fight. If it stays standing, you probably gotta give Pulyaev the edge, and if Liam can somehow get his wrestling off, maybe a submission prop on the Liam side. I saw that the submission was going up as the KO was taking some money, so I don't know. I think if there were to be a finish, it'd probably be an Anderson submission. But I'm curious your thoughts because I'm looking at the over. It's a pick 'em, but at the same time, the goes the distance is plus 240, which I don't know if Liam's been the distance. I think he's in his loss. He went the distance, but I
I
don't
was
know.
gonna
I
say I'm
don't.
99% sure I watched him go the distance.
Yeah, that was Miles Lee. I mean, that dude's a good wrestler, so no harm there. But like, yeah, I think if it's going over 1.5, it's probably going to the decision. It probably means Liam can't get a sub, but yeah, I don't know. If they get stuck at range, man, and Pulyaev's just kicking at range for a point kickboxing match, GTD plus 240 could look value. I'm just trying to find any angle to play this fight because the money line, it's dog or pass, but it's like you play Pulyaev and he gets taken down and you look like a fucking idiot. So I don't know if this fight's gonna take my money, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm going to, somebody had asked about if we could show some pictures of the fighters on the screen. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and try and give people an idea who we're talking about. Listen, I think this Pulyaev guy has a lot of problems, right? Like you mentioned the fact that he's not very good at the grappling thing. When you look, he's 2-0 career to the submission. So you could fool yourself into thinking, hey, maybe there's something here. But he got submitted in the amateur results, right? If you go scroll to his topology, as recently as like 2021, he's been losing amateur fights. So the guy's got plenty of losses. It's not like he's some 8-2, undefeated force. He's so hard to beat. It's not really the case. And then you look back, the Anverbek Danaya Bekov fight. I mean, that guy just fucking assaulted him. It's like a really brutal beatdown. Could have been stopped
That
like
guy
five.
was supposed to be on the Contender Series this year. He pulled out of the fight. He was supposed to fight Yusri Belgurui, which would have been a
Oh,
fucking
really?
violent fight. Yeah, he
Wow.
pulled out though, sadly. But yeah, that dude's a beast. So,
He's a
but yeah,
he's a
he did play.
Russian striker, like out and which we always talk about. Those could be fun, right? And he's out there just like holding people at range and then just punching them to the body, like kind of that dude in the boxing. And this dude tried to quit like 1 or 2 times, and he was like, you know what? No, I should get back up. And then he got his ass put more. He's like, oh fuck, I should have quit last time. It was a crazy ass whooping. And it all happened really fast. But the fight that's super concerning for me is the Jakip Tugenbev. I mean, please forgive me, guys. I tried my absolute best there phonetically after a couple adult beverages. But when you're looking at this guy, I mean, he's getting thrown all over the place physically. So I think his defense on the ground is not good. I think his defense standing is also not good. Like he has some of the right ideas striking in terms of like pivot off, put something on my shoulder, but then he'll just be like in an exchange like this, chin straight up in the air. Just like he'll like go to throw and like back up like here. And I just know that eventually that's going to get him nuked. The one thing I will say about this Liam Anderson guy that I really like, he can get hurt, no doubt about it, but he's a tough motherfucker. I've seen him get dropped and keep going. I've seen him get hurt, be in a bad spot, keep going. So I don't think he's like a quitter or anything like that. I didn't find the Thomas Powell fight, but obviously not a great loss. The Miles Lee fight, to your point, he did a decent enough job of making that guy really tired and making that guy second guess his life decisions, but he was also just unable to get him off him physically, right? And I think that's not going to be the case in this fight. Miles Lee built like a brick shit house. And also the one thing I'll say is you look at Liam Anderson then, looked a little softer on the body. You know, he looked like you poke him a little bit, your finger would leave like a 1-inch dip. You know what I'm saying? He's not like that no more. I think he's a little bit more muscular. I think he's grown into his frame a little bit more. Maybe he got supplementation. I honestly don't know, but he definitely looks a little bit more athletic. And I think that when you look at the Maurice Morris fight, that's just an example of like this guy can be really fucking dangerous, man. He tries to put kicks on every level of the body. He's a hard calf kicker. He's a hard body kicker. He'll kick to the open side if it's there, but with these kicks and pretty fast. Like I'd say that there's a few times where he's a little too showy with it, where you could tell it's coming from a mile away. The guys block it or they get out of the way, but he also just can throw it from pretty close range for a guy his size. So he's landing in close and guys are hitting the deck. And he's had a couple times where he landed it and hurt somebody real bad and didn't finish them. But he said, like, since the amateur days, I've been hitting people with this kick. I know it's for real. Like, I know I can get it. So I think that in this fight against the guy with tall man defense, like, what do you do when somebody leans back with their chin up in the air? You can either try and chase them down with punches all night.
Show them the high, my friend. You show them the high.
So I think that that's exactly what we're going to see from Anderson here. I actually understand why some money came in on the KO. But it's, for me, a matter of preference. What this guy goes out there with the intent to do is take people down. It just doesn't always go that way. The other thing I would say is he knocks people down by accident. If you go watch this guy's fights, there's times when like the guy is like getting aggressive with him. So he'll like check hook, like just to like create a little space. He like steps back, goes to the left, and the dude just hits the floor and like starts waking back up trying to wrestle him and shit. He's kind of just has this little sneaky power to him. And I think that he will dominate here. So the one thing I would say he's got to watch for is the knees to the body, right? We just saw it happen with fucking Pat Pitlick last week. I thought he was fighting a pretty great fight outside the clinch. Inside the clinch, he just got fucking roasted with knees to the body. I would say everyone on this card, if I could like point to a common meta flaw, just nobody knows how to defend knees to the body. People aren't blocking at the knee. People are not like using any kind of shield. They're not, covering up the body. So they just have this very soft target. And most of the time, the fighter's answer is to just exchange. Like, you hit me, I hit you back. But that's not going to prevent me from wearing a lot of damage over time. So for me, the other thing is, when you've got a big, long body guy like this, I have no doubt that Anderson could pin this guy into the fence. My question is just, is he going to be smart enough to throw some knees to the body, torch this guy a little bit, and then take him down? I think if he does that, he's going to put himself in the driver's seat in this fight. Great name, great state. I think he's coming to teach these boys how to wrestle once again. We got 2 New York wrestlers. Let's see if we can get it done, boys.
I think the face-offs were a bit surprising, actually. I thought Liam was going to be a lot bigger. It's actually not at all. I think, if anything, he's smaller than Pulyaev, the Russian. But
Pulyaev is definitely tall. He's like a tall, gangly dude. I didn't think of him as like super muscular, but I'll go watch the face-off as you mentioned it.
I just thought it was interesting, but I just would tell people, be careful with Liam minus 200, minus 2xx. It's like he makes a lot of mistakes, but I think you put it right. He's tough as shit, and that's probably gonna be enough to get it done here. Like, if there's one guy to face adversity, and I know that they're gonna continue fighting, it's fucking Liam. But yeah, whoever wins here, they're gonna be probably faded in the future.
Yeah, I tend to agree. The other thing I'll mention, though, and the reason why you had said, like, why did this guy get the main event spot we were all discussing? I think that the reason is he's been very vocal. He's been extremely vocal. Every time he fucking knocks somebody silly, he looks at the camera and says, UFC, I want a shot. Give me a shot. Like, guys, if y'all are at home sitting there trying to get a contract with the UFC, take some notes. Go ahead and study that. How did he get this opportunity? Because we're looking at his record. He's got a fine record, right? But it's not a record that would set you apart from a lot of other guys on the regional scene. It's a solid, but nothing remarkable. You got to talk, use your voice, say something interesting. He would otherwise just be a generic white guy from New York named Liam. I know a thing or two about it. Instead, he goes out there, he says, give me my shot twice in a row. Here he is on Contender Series getting a big opportunity where, otherwise he might just be languishing on the Seneca Falls, Niagara regional scene. And by the way, nothing wrong with, that. It's like high level of fighting, but how do you get the next step? Got to get your name out there. Got to get somebody to care about your fights. And for a lot of these guys, I'm noticing like Andrey Pulyaev, bro, he couldn't fucking rub together 1,000 social media followers if he put together 10 platforms. Like, the guy is just a virtual unknown. He's been fighting for how long? That for me is not a bullish signal when I'm looking at these guys, because the UFC thinks of you as an investment. You're 29 years of age or whatever. I think 26, 29. Nobody knows who you are. You've never gotten anybody's attention with anything that you've done. It's like Torres Finney had 25,000 followers and we're telling him to go fuck himself, right? That's where we're at as a business, right? Bo Nichols coming through the Contender Series got 80,000, 100,000 followers that he brought from his sport, that he brought from something else he did that makes him interesting. And people wonder why he gets paid or why he gets put on these big spots in the promotion. That's it. So for me, I think that when I'm always looking for that little intangible, that little X factor, for me, that's it. Why did they put this guy in the main event? Why did they put this fight together at all? I don't think it's because Andrey Pulyaev is fucking moving units. I don't. I think they want to see him get spilt. I think they want to see him get killed. I think they want to see this guy, Liam-Heslin, go talk some shit on a microphone and, call somebody out like Chuck Buffalo or somebody like that in the UFC. Make some shit stir. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what they're looking for, and that's what I want to see. So for me, I'm rooting for him, but I ain't laying the minus 225 to find out. I'll tell you that. I think that this is a great night of fights, but it's a tricky one. So for me, the dogs that I'm kind of looking towards, I got to do the research. Like my guy Pierce had talked about a potential dog shot on the Frenchman, although always feel a little bit dicey going with a Frenchman that's not named Benoit Saint-Denis. If they're not in the special forces, I have my reservations about these French fighters. Otherwise, though, I think Wellmaker is probably going to get the job done. Oh, please go ahead.
You know who's leading the charge in the social media following this week, my friend?
I do, but I don't have it pulled up in front of me, so go ahead.
The Frenchie, man, he's got motion.
Oh, he's got like 60,000, bro. Now, Pierce, you're getting back into my head again, bro.
Brother,
63,000 on Instagram. Fact.
Why do you think he's followed by BSD, Baki, Saladin Parnasse, bro? Like this is they recognize this is the next big star in France. But no, I'm joking. I don't know how this guy got the motion. Maybe maybe MMA is just so big out in France, and you're the Hexagon champion, which is the biggest promotion out there. So I just thought that was interesting. I don't know if Tulio's necessarily
for everybody who stuck it out this late into the card. I can't tell you that this is going to matter to whether or not they win, but what I can tell you is the A side in each and every fight. Liam Anderson is the social media A side in the main event of the evening. Bogdan Grad is the social media A side in the co-main event of the evening. Mattheui Duclos by a factor of 3, 63,000 followers to 21,000 followers. But both of those guys are in the top 3 on the card, if you know what I'm saying. These are guys that have their own following independently, regionally. Adam Bramhald is the A side, but it's not by a big factor. It's 4.1 thousand, 3.1 thousand. Nobody, those aren't numbers that matter, right? I'll just be leveling with you. Nick Piccininni, massive A side compared to Jack Duffy, 26.7 thousand on Instagram compared to 1.9 thousand for Duffy. So Duffy has remained virtually anonymous throughout his 20-year MMA career, but he does have some skills. So fun scraps, man. I'm excited about these. Why don't you give us your brief recap and anything that you want to plug, anything you want to get off your chest, anything you got to say to the people? The floor is yours, my brother.
I don't think Duffy's remaining anonymous in the Sacramento nightlife scene. I'll just say that. But first fight of the night, we got Duffy versus Piccininni, the wrestler. I'm going with Nick. I think
Piccininni.
I'm not from New York or Italian, so I can't do this. But Mr. Nick, I think he's gonna get it done with the wrestling. Stay away from this price, honestly. Minus 350 is probably accurate. I wouldn't want to have his money line in a parlay. Maybe his KO. I think that's a sneaky prop that maybe people are kind of sleeping on because he has none on his record. So maybe wait for domestic, see what they open that at, and then Wellmaker versus Bramhald. Sucks we're doing this on a Monday because I played Malcolm last night at a better number, but I just think he has most of the upside in this matchup, and he's probably the guy the UFC wants here. And Bramhald's probably path to victory is a close decision in a striking match, and I can honestly give Wellmaker the athleticism, power, and probably the grappling upside in this matchup as well. Maybe a flyer on his submission prop if you can get a decent number. And then Duclos Tulio. I mean, Tulio should be the favorite, but I don't mind Duclos' striking if he can keep it on the feet and not get chin, because that is probably the issue. Is Tulio's maybe got more pora in him, os, and he could just hardware Duclos and just walk him down later in the fight. But in the beginning of the fight, I think Duclos can hang at range. He's probably the sharper striker at range, and if he can keep it standing, because Tulio goes for the grappling, but I don't think his wrestling's good. I think he could maybe find, honestly, a knockout just based off of how open Tulio leaves himself in combinations. But yeah, plus 320, man. I'm going to wait, see where the line goes, but I think that's probably one of the better dogs, if not the best dog on the board when you're looking at the price. But Grad versus Aswell, I think I'm gonna wait and see because I know some sharps on Aswell, so I'm maybe gonna see if the price gets a little bit better. But I think honestly, Grad can be the favorite here just because he's probably gonna win the fight earlier, and Aswell, I think he's a better live bet if I'm being honest, because that's kind of his style is to wear you out late and be an attritional guy. But Grad is like dynamic. Maybe look at a KO prop for Grad. He can finish a lot of guys in a lot of aspects of the fight, flying knees, spinning heel kicks, and then maybe, I mean, ITD if you want to play it safe. Like Liam said, he's probably got some submission upside. He's pretty crafty on the mat, but yeah, dogger pass for me with Grad. I can probably make him a slight favorite here, and then Anderson Pulyaev, another dogger pass, but I'm probably not going to play the dog at all just because Pulyaev seems a bit soy and flaky, and the takedown defense is a bit concerning. And a guy in Liam Anderson who's going to be looking for the grappling. Maybe Anderson sub if I want to make a play on that fight. But yeah, sorry I only have one money line bet, but I will say next week, Liam, you better get ahead on your tape study next week. It's a high level card, man. I can't wait for some of these matchups we have next week.
Hell yeah, brother. I'm going to definitely do that. I got to get, we don't have a UFC card this week, right? So the next phase for me in terms of research will definitely be, upcoming pay-per-views, UFC cards, but certainly what comes next on the calendar, which will be that next week of Dana White Contender Series. So guys, for week number 4, what I need to tell you guys before I get into my recap very quickly is make sure that you go show love on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I don't want to repeat myself, but I just want to make it very clear. Our guy Gordo out here doing exams, putting in the work, doing his research, doing his education like a goddamn responsible young man. So we got to support him in that. And we got to support him on YouTube, Plays and Fades YouTube channel next week. That's where me, Pierce, and Gordo will be breaking it all down for you on those high-level matchups that he just referred to. But in terms of the shit sandwich that we have to deal with this week, let's talk about it right now, and we'll go from the bottom of the card all the way on up. We're going biased as shit, guys. I got my Henzo Gracie of Warwick, shirt on. So what are we doing? We're going hard for New York talent, okay? We're saying Nick Piccininni is going to eliminate Jack Duffy. Fuck California. He's going to put this guy in a chokehold. He's going to say tap. He's going to say uncle, brother, and he's going to do it. So Nick Piccininni, going to get him to say uncle for the boys, and I'm just kidding because he's going to get the KO prop for Pierce at 5-1. Then we got Malcolm Wellmaker. He's going to go out there and do the damn thing. I think he could get it done however he wants. I'm going to go watch a little bit more tape, make sure I'm not short selling our guy, Adam Bramhald. But if you look through his record, guys, he fought a lot of Fugazis. I don't think that he's, challenged himself along the way. When he did challenge himself, you guys ass whooped a lot of times. And even in some of these fights more recently where he tried to take on the bigger challenges, he's getting hurt, he's getting rocked, he's getting dropped. I don't think it's going to work out for him well against Wellmaker, who I think has the upside in the grappling as well as the ability to knock him out on the feet. I think that when you look at this Tulio and Dubois fight, you should ask somebody who's fucking watched tape on it, because I haven't, and I have to do that between now and when I give the betting guide for tomorrow. So if y'all are on Patreon, y'all see exactly what I think about that fight. But for now, I could just tell you that last year I was willing to fade this Tulio guy against some, one-note kickboxer because I didn't think he was fucking worth his salt. So let's see if he's changed something. Let's see if I've, got to change my mind upon further analysis. But right now, it's a dogger pass situation for me. As for the Bogdan Grad fight, it's another dogger pass situation for me. You're getting a guy who's been on Contender Series. He's got more pro fights, and frankly, he's probably got no more chances after this, right? Michael Aswell, young kid. He could easily be rebuilt, brought back in. Antoine Ho, all these other guys that are very talented, that are coming off the regional scene. They're very young. They get one setback, no problem, man. Go back in, you get 2 wins, you're on Contender Series next year, and then you're in the UFC. But I think his humble pie is coming this time. I think that Michael Aswell is a good fighter, but he takes a lot of damage. He's willing to go out there and trade with guys. And I think Bogdan Grad is going to try and kill him. And I think he's eventually going to get his positions that he wants. So for me, I think Bogdan Grad has the grappling upside. I think he's got the ability to knock him out. I think he's going to go out there and put on a fun fight. And I think he's juiced to the absolute tits. I think when you're looking at Andrey Pulyaev in this main event, I don't know what to make of this guy. I've found it hard to find his footage. This is a guy I tried to tape. I didn't find that much. Half of his shit is like listed in Russian. I can't find like clear, easy spots. I found the video of him getting beat up on somebody else's highlight reel. Had to go that deep. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like this is a guy that's not for real. He's not big on social media. He's not an easy guy to find fight. He's a guy that looks like he's got huge flaws in major categories across the board. The other guy, Liam Anderson, seems to me like the kind of guy the UFC wants to bring in at the entry level. Is he going to be a world champion? Probably not. Is he going to go out there and compete for top 15 positions? Maybe not. But is he going to go out there and put on fun fights and not care about his health and safety and take a lot of chances? Yeah, he's going to do all those things. So for me, I think they'd love to have that kind of guy on the roster to go throw out there in a Nashville, in a Texas and whatever, and just say, hey, here's Zach Reese. Here's somebody else. Just go out there and bang into each other like bumper cars for a while and see if that entertains people. That's what they want. And so I think he's the right kind of guy for that. I don't think the other guy's durable or talented enough to be in those kind of fights. So that's the way I see this one, man. Fading Russians at minus 200, probably not going to make you money long-term, right? But when I'm just looking at the fight, got to call it the way I see it. Guy named Liam, he's from New York, biased as shit, acknowledging that up front. I think he's going to get the job done, and I think he's going to finish this guy as well. So for me, I'm seeing a lot of finishes on this card. I think it's a violent episode of the Contender series, and I think that there's a couple dogs that could be live, but ultimately, I think some of these favorites might end up smashing. So for me, Piccininni, Wellmaker, and Anderson, I think they're going to get the job done. I think they're going to smash, but it's also, inherent risk, right? Don't think that because I say that, they're good money line spots, right? Everything is a numbers game, but that's just the way I see it, my opinion on these fights. So that's all of it. It's in the bag. It's under an hour. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. God bless each and every one of you guys. I hope that you win all your bets tomorrow, unless you're betting against me, in which case go fuck yourself. But shout out to our boy Pierce. Thank you guys for your time, effort, and attention. And come back next week on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel where we're doing it all again. Thanks, guys.